Welcome in to Rover Sports. This is the podcast. It says that I'm connected to my Wi-Fi, and I assume that I am. So we are going to begin now. So we got Davey Horns here. Welcome into Rover Sports, the podcast. This is the Tuesday edition of the show where we recap everything in the world of sports, specifically football. And Dave, how are you, my friend?
I am doing great today. How are you, Rover?
I'm doing fine. Just woke up, so just going to take in the second half of this day.
Just woke up, Spence. The second half of the day, it's like the last third of the day at this point.
Really? Well, what time do you go to bed?
I
mean, I think midnight is when the day ends, so you still get 4 to 12 o'clock.
Yeah, so 4 to 12 o'clock, you 24 hours a day. That's the last third of the day.
Maybe, but you're also sleeping for some of that.
Yeah, so you're taking in the last third of the day.
Yeah, but but again, like you want to just maximize your time. You don't want to overstay the day.
Okay, I got you.
You got me. Okay. So we're off to a good start on Rover Sports, the show, the podcast. Just uploading images, going to make sure that the podcast is up and rolling. And really, I want to open up this podcast and I want to talk about Jason Garrett. I want to talk about the Dallas Cowboys with you. And Jason Garrett, the Dallas Cowboys, what a debacle it was losing to the New York Jets. Now, I have my theories why I think that the Jets won the game, but I know that you have a lot of thoughts about the Dallas Cowboys, so I'm going to allow you the platform to talk about everything surrounding the coaches and the Dallas Cowboys.
You give your theories. You give everything you feel. I'm going to back you up on this one.
You mean you're going to come in and you're going to?
You give it all. Give every thought you have, and I'll tell you my thought.
All right, I'll try to give this everything that I possibly can. Before I get into this take, I want to quickly adjust something real quick with the podcast. So in about 30 seconds, I'm going to deliver my take on the Cowboys. So in 30 seconds, it will happen. All right, guys, we're back. That was quick. That was another 10 seconds. The podcast people would tune out. But here are my thoughts on the Dallas Cowboys. Okay, so I believe that the Dallas Cowboys, I think it was a really tough game for them because this is like the Jets Super Bowl. Sam Darnold's coming back. The Jets defense has been really good all season long. They have Leonard Williams. They have Quinnen Williams, Greg Williams. So they have all the Williams, but their defensive line is actually awesome. The New York Jets. I think it's very good. I think Blake Cashman is a really good linebacker, so it's hard to move the ball on the road against the Jets. Sam Darnold struggled in New York. Josh Allen. The Jets' D has been amazing. Sam Darnold is a decent quarterback. He's gotten a lot of time to prepare for this game. Adam Gase's job is on the line. It's a tough road game. I think that the Jets, if Sam Darnold would have started, they would have been a 7-9, 8-8 team. So an average team, but not the worst team in the NFL. Luke Falk is maybe one of the worst quarterbacks to ever play an NFL game in the history of the National Football League. So I believe it was a tough game for the Dallas Cowboys. However, Jason Garrett has had 10 years to motivate his team to play football. And the Cowboys in the last 3 weeks have played terrible first halves in New Orleans. They played just an atrocious game against the Packers. I don't put any stock really into those garbage time touchdowns that Dak and the offense did in the second half. They were down by 28 points, 31-3. That at home after a loss to the Saints. That was completely embarrassing. And then the Eagles go out and lose to the Vikings, and Kirk Cousins lights up their secondary. So the Eagles are begging you. The Eagles are begging you. They're begging you to take over the division. And yet the Dallas Cowboys couldn't do it against the Jets, and their first half was horrible. Jason Garrett just offers, to me, I don't think he offers anything. I don't believe that he's a great play caller. He's not an excellent motivator. The chemistry is not there with this team. And you have two guys that are potentially big-time talents. You have a very young 31-year-old offensive coordinator that took over for an old and stale coordinator. And the first 3 weeks of the season, now you could say it was against terrible opponents, the Cowboys' offense has been more dynamic. Even the Packers' second half, which I talked about, whatever, not mattering, but there's more motions, there's checks. This guy knows Dak Prescott. And Prescott's stats this year have been very, very good with this new coordinator, who's only 31, so he's still very young. Then you have Chris Richard, the ultimate motivator on defense, a Pete Carroll decipher, a cover 3 master. He's elevated this defense over the last couple of years. You know, with Byron Jones, that secondary doesn't even have that much talent. He makes them great with the secondary. So I don't see what the harm is in making Richard the guy. In fact, Richard should be the guy. You should see if Richard can manage these egos, and you should see if Richard is the ultimate guy to lead your program. You need to see, because this year the Cowboys have a lot of talent. They have an opportunity to win the division and go deep into the playoffs. You need to see if Richard is the guy. You need to see if he has the you really have to see if he has the composure to be a head coach, which I think he does. And with Jason Garrett, these players hate him. He serves no purpose, but he's blocking the progress of the future. And to me, it's a no-brainer that it's been 10 years. It's time for Garrett to be relieved of his duties, and Cowboys fans should be rooting for the Eagles to beat them this week so that Garrett will be dismissed. So that's my statement.
Here's what I think. Last week on Sunday I was texting you gotta fire Garrett now, right? That's what I texted you. And I've taken some time. I've thought about this. Why has Jerry Jones not fired this guy? You know, it's a lot of talk is, well, we're not making any moves. We're going to reevaluate in the off season. I'm not making any coaching changes in the season. And then it dawned on me, all right? If you look at Kellen Moore, I'm a fan of him. To be honest with you, this Sunday, he was awful. They had to take the play calling away from him in the second half because he wouldn't run the ball with their best player in Ezekiel Elliott. It's moronic what he was doing in the first half. He was throw. You have Gallup out there dropping passes, Tavon Austin out there who can't do much. Amari Cooper's hurt, Randall Cobb's hurt, and you're just throwing. So Jason Garrett, what does he have to do? He has to take the reins from the guy and say, we're going to run the ball. And Zeke, they ran the ball basically the whole second half, but still at the end of the day, it was too little too late, a couple missed field goals, you know. And it's just hard to get down that much and win a football game in the NFL. You have to basically be perfect, and the second half wasn't perfect. Richard, you know, the 92-yard touchdown, that didn't really bother me because, you know, big plays in the NFL happen. It could happen from 50. It could happen from 60. It can happen from 40. You know, you get beat. You know, that doesn't bother me. First half, you know, the offense looked like they were playing for Luke. The defense looked like as if they were scouted for Luke Falk. It was like as if they had no idea that Darnold was a competent quarterback. Okay, whatever. I wasn't impressed with him, even though I'm a big Richard guy. So I think to myself, why is Jerry Jones not making this move? It can only be for one reason. He does not want to name Richard the head coach right now, and then the team have success. We could say, well, that's the stupidest thing you've ever heard. He's going after Lincoln Riley. Everything you read every day in that Dallas news. I read all the newspapers. I read everything. I read it all. They've constantly got people, the Dallas personnel, in the what's it called in what is it? Norman, Oklahoma.
Norman?
Constantly. They constantly have people there, and you can say, well, they're what's it called? They're evaluating players. From what I'm reading, they're evaluating Lincoln Riley day in and day out there also. Other rumors are, you could be going out and getting Sean Payton. I think that Jerry Jones' biggest fear is with firing Jason Garrett now is that whether it be Kellen Moore, whether it's Richard, that the team actually does well, and you are forced to hire them. And he doesn't actually get the guy he wants in Lincoln Riley. It's the reason why I think Jerry Jones will never fire him during the season. Everything you read is he's going to make a mega, mega offer to Lincoln this offseason. So you know what? I agree. Cowboys are going to be stuck in mediocrity this year. They're playing for a coach no one wants to play for. The guy is awful, terrible coach. I'm not saying he should be there. He will be there. And the reason you don't fire him is because they don't want to get caught in that we won 10-6. We go to the NFC Championship game under Richard, and then you look back at it and you're like, "Oh, we really missed out on our guy." I really believe that's.
I think that theory's. I think you did a fantastic job there with that theory. It's a great theory.
The only thing that could be going on.
It's time to unpack the theory. All right, it's time to really go deep into this theory. One question that I have for you is that do you believe that Lincoln Riley wants Dak Prescott, and do you believe that the Cowboys are planning to get rid of Dak Prescott after the year? What do you think, sir?
I think that there is no question about that Dak will be back next year. Dak will be tied to – but the thing I have thought of this whole season now, even when he was doing good, now he's doing bad, so it's going to be the franchise tag. I really believe they're not going to commit themselves long-term to him, or at least as much guaranteed money. I could be wrong in the offseason, and maybe it comes out while we're talking that they signed to a big extension, even though I don't think that will happen. I believe it's the franchise tag. They're going to play a little Kirk Cousins with him. I don't think anyone is really 100% sold on Dak Prescott, I mean, it's kind of like you get Jared Goff, and Jared Goff is this perfect example of right now you're looking at it, and it's like, yeah, the offensive line isn't great. Todd Gurley is obviously hurt and isn't the same Todd Gurley. The Rams have a ton of money invested in Jared Goff, $110 million guaranteed. But remember, the contract's like 130, 140, like over 4 years, and it's some ridiculous number. And when you think about it, they're not going to just release Jared Goff. So that contract's like $130 million over the next 4 or 5 years, whatever it is,
All right.
And
I have more questions about here's the reason why I'm going to talk to Jerry Jones. And I mean, Ezekiel Elliott, what was the rush in signing Zeke Elliott if this year was going to be a year that they would punt anyway? Well, maybe they thought that Garrett would do decently well. And also the risk here, Dave, and it's more my problem with Jerry Jones here, is that with Lincoln Riley, Dak Prescott is a very mediocre quarterback. Your money is all tied up with Zeke, Amari Cooper. You don't have any flexibility anymore.
Wait. What money is tied up with Amari Cooper?
Oh, it's not tied up with Cooper. You're right, but it's tied up with Tank Lawrence. So you corrected me there. I was just floating on with my.
Their bad contracts at this point will have it has nothing to do with this next head coach.
So here's what I'm gonna say. This is the biggest risk. Is what happens if Lincoln Riley? You're relying on Lincoln Riley to take the deal. Now we all know tampering, right? And how it's kind of BS. Do you believe that Lincoln Riley, that there's an answer already from Jerry Jones that he knows about this to not fire Jason Garrett? Because if he doesn't know, and first of all, here's my other problem with Jones. Is that you have Jalen Smith, who's healthy right now, who's chronically not healthy. You have DeMarcus Lawrence, prime of his career, Van Der Esch, prime, Elliott, prime, Amari Cooper. The Eagles secondary is depleted. They have a bad team. The Giants are bad and the Redskins are bad. The Rams are over the hill. The Saints have a quarterback problem. You can go out and you're Jerry Jones, you're 75 years old, however old you are. You've never been to an NFC championship game in like 2 decades. Your fan base is dying to have some kind of postseason success. This should be the time that you make a move for this season. This could be the season. Even though it's 3-3, this could be the season for the Cowboys.
I'm gonna take a step back there. Also, remember this: it doesn't matter if he doesn't want to be tied to Richard or Kellen Moore long term. I'm telling you right now, he's not gonna. He's not gonna make him the head coach. So maybe, I would have told you this 3 weeks ago. Maybe I thought Richard would be the guy there. I would have maybe told you that on Saturday. But there's something telling me he does not want to be tied to either one of those two guys long term. So if you make them the coach and they have success, but you don't want to be tied to them, it's no good all the way around. I mean, you go back to, it's not a head coach, but okay, look at it this way. The Rams back in the day, they go out and Kurt Warner gets hurt, right?
Yeah.
Mark Bulger comes in and goes 8-0. No one wanted to be tied to Mark Bulger long term. But guess what happened? They were forced. So it's kind of like that theory. Maybe we get into that later with another topic in the NFL, but you don't want to be forced to be tied to a guy that they just don't believe in. I mean, I could be wrong.
But you're never forced. So then Lincoln Riley needs to be, because imagine,
I'll tell you right now, you are forced if this team goes 12-4 this year, you would be forced to be tied to whoever that guy is. And I think that's what Jerry Jones is fearful of. And I'm not saying it's just Lincoln Riley, even though that's
no, you're not there's nothing in the laws that says
you're
that.
Wrong. It's what's it called? It's professional sports. You go 12-4, you're gonna have to hire the guy. It's professional sports. It's the way it's gonna work.
Well, how come but you got to be like Minnesota, like the Vikings were with Case Keenum, okay? And they let go of Case Keenum and they upgraded. And I think fans would, even though like they're very emotional creatures, and Richard is one of the more likable coaches in recent NFL memory. Even as a Giants fan living up here, I love Chris Richard. He's a very you just want to run through a wall for the guy when you hear him speak. But Lincoln Riley is the ultimate guru. He's an NFL dream as a coach, and Richard is a defensive coach who could, when you think about the Richard tree, if you go even deeper, Richard is tied to Gus Bradley and Dan Quinn, and those are two flameouts currently in the cover 3 scheme. And look at the defensive coaches that are out there in the NFL. Mike Vrabel is going to get canned. Ron Rivera was on his last leg. So Mike Smith was a bad defensive coach. Todd Bowles. So
Belichick.
As much as I like Richard, I think that unequivocally, I think Lincoln Riley is probably the better option just for long-term success, because you could find a good D coordinator. Would you agree that Riley would be better than Richard?
That's why you don't hire any of these guys in the interim, because you don't want to be pressured to hire them full time. I would 100% agree. That's what my theory is at this point. That Jerry Jones's fear is that this team's I think this team will have success. Honestly, I think you bring in a new head coach. I don't know that the success is going to change on this in particular team all that much one way or another. I truly don't. I think you might get the rah-rah for like a game, but the pieces are in place one way or another. Like your offense is your offense, your defense is your defense, and Jason Garrett's not necessarily on October 14th or 15th, whatever today is, affecting it that much at this point. Where the effect happens is in August, July, May, that's kind of where I'm going with it.
You know what? Actually, I love that you just put this take on me, currently on our podcast, because the more that I think about it, the more Jerry Jones is a genius. You know, everybody is playing checkers and he's playing chess, because the beautiful thing about your take, or about what Jerry, if this is actually true, is that the disaster doomsday scenario is that Lincoln Riley does not take your job, but it's not a disaster at all, because then you just hire Richard. But if you hire Richard now, Lincoln Riley, your number one choice, is eliminated potentially from the pool. So if you just wait 8 months until whatever happens in the season, you keep Lincoln Riley in your crosshairs with what you're saying.
Exactly, and it's 100%. It's that Jerry Jones has someone in mind. All indications are it's Lincoln Riley. I mean, you read about the stuff that basically Dallas personnel has like set up shop in Norman, Oklahoma. That's basically every practice, every game, every day they're there. You know, they have personnel there. Basically, they have people living there. Okay, so you know, I'm reading the Dallas Fort Worth or whatever, the Telstar or whatever it is. You know, it's Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley. That's gonna be the guy. That's gonna be the guy. And at some point, when there's so much buzz behind that, you know, there might be some truth to the rumor. Or, once again, as we say, we're playing checkers and he's playing chess. I mean, Jerry Jones might have a verbal agreement with the coach right now that it could be Sean Payton. I mean, do we know that we've ruled out anyone in this league, basically, other than like Bill Belichick, you know?
Well,
I mean,
if it's Sean Payton, Sean Payton is older. I think Lincoln Riley. I'm telling, like
I would agree. Well,
call me crazy. I think Richard might
guy.
even be a better option than Sean Payton.
I'm not disagreeing. I just believe that Jerry Jones knows exactly who it is right now, and I believe if it was on the current staff, the move would be made, if that makes sense. I really believe it's Lincoln Riley. Every indication in the world it's Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley's making about $6.4 million. Jerry Jones could easily put him at $10 million. The tax situation is better in Texas anyway compared to Oklahoma, where you pay like a 1 or 2% income tax or whatever, but that really doesn't matter when you're making that kind of money.
So if you're Lincoln Riley, do you want this job?
I think if you're ever going to go to the NFL, yes. And here's the other reason. If you're Lincoln Riley, you know, let's just talk. We'll talk about a little bit of Oklahoma football here, okay? The cupboard is bare after this year. If some of the projected guys are leaving, and you start looking, I'm not saying they're going to be terrible or anything like that, but Oklahoma has been one of these programs that goes through these like 5-year super runs, and they're down for 2 years, or not, I mean down like 8-4, 7-5. You know, if you actually look at the Stoops era, there are those times where they go down. You know, I think they are about to hit that time. They're so good right now. You look at their team; it's very junior and senior heavy, and you're kind of also relying on Lincoln Riley pulling one out of his butt again next year at the quarterback position in the transfer market. I mean, I don't think there's anyone that. Maybe there's one guy at Utah State that might stay and transfer, and that's just theory, you know, and Jordan Love. But, you know, there's no indication that there's anything, but that's just a out there idea.
Well, do you follow recruiting? You follow recruiting. Have you heard of Spencer Rattler from Arizona?
He is not the what's it called right away. He's not Kyler Murray. He's not Baker Mayfield next year. He's not Jalen Hurts. I can promise you that.
Yeah, maybe without the weapons. I think he's going to be like incredibly good, but maybe like in 2 years.
I think he could be
then.
good too, but you might need a year one guy. I mean, I don't think he's Justin Fields in the sense of he's going to come in and just be this amazing right away off the bat. So, because if you think about the type of quarterback play that they've gotten the last few years, it's pretty much in the top 3 every year. They've had the best quarterback the last 2 years. I'm going to say Jalen Hurts in the top 3 or 4 guys right now playing this year, you know?
Here's a really
NFL prospects.
Yeah. I wanted to give you an interesting hypothetical, and I'm putting myself in Lincoln Riley's shoes. I believe that there's a big challenger in the NFL to the Dallas Cowboys for Lincoln Riley's services. And specifically, that challenger is a team like the Miami Dolphins, because we talk about Tua Tagovailoa and you call him the Ferrari, the dream car. And we talked about like how if the Giants in a perfect world can get Tua, like we would love it for our favorite franchise. Dak Prescott is an all-right quarterback. He's not as mobile even as he was at Mississippi State. His arm strength is all right. You do have Cooper. You have Zeke Elliott. So, we know Lincoln likes to run the ball. And unequivocally, the Cowboys and their facilities in Frisco, Texas, you could say what you want about Jerry Jones. He's 1 billion% more competent than Stephen Ross in every aspect, maybe, of football and life. And living in Texas, in Dallas, is more preferable from a football standpoint than Miami. However, you could get CeeDee Lamb and you could get Tua Tagovailoa. You could get a dream quarterback to build your offense around in a place in Miami that hasn't won in a long time. Not a terrible place to live. You could play golf and go out on the boat. What do you think about that? What do you think about that hypothetical there with Lincoln Riley?
I'll put about 0 to 1% chance of that actually happening, because Stephen Ross has promised Brian Flores that his job will not be in jeopardy. That's why they went out and traded all their guys, and they know it's a complete rebuild. So that's kind of the reason why you've seen this destruction of the team. This is what Stephen Ross wants. Stephen Ross apparently loves Brian Flores. And I don't think that Stephen Ross is really cheap. He's a cheap guy. He's not going to pay the kind of money to Lincoln Riley that Jerry Jones would pay. And also, I don't think he's going to want to go out and spend $10 million at least a year on Lincoln Riley. That's what's going to take when you're paying Brian Flores still in about 4 to 5 a year. And just, I see it as a zero possibility, especially a guy will be in the second year of a 5-year deal in Flores.
You know what? If I'm Lincoln Riley, the more I think about it, I mean, he's dominated at the college level. He hasn't won a national championship. However, the iron has never been hotter to make a move. We talk about Cardell Jones and how after that national championship he should have left. Jacob Eason, any quarterback that's a junior, you gotta strike while the iron is hot in life. And this just seems like Lincoln Riley is the hottest of names, and you get to be the coach of the Dallas Cowboys, one of the preeminent franchises in the NFL and in all sports. I mean, it's probably a dream for Lincoln Riley to get that job, and if I were him, I'd probably even take the job, and I think it could very well happen. And also, he might get paid $11 million if Gruden's making $10 million. I could see Jerry just doing it. I really could.
I think, and the great part about for Lincoln Riley is, I don't think you're coming into that standard first-year NFL head coach contract where maybe it's 4 years or 5 years. I think with that $10 million, I mean, I think you're getting like an 8 to 10-year contract if you're taking him out. I think this guy is going to get basically whatever the heck he wants. It's going to be similar to if like a Nick Saban were to have ever really entertained anything after Alabama, which he isn't. What I'm saying is he's going to get what he wants. So the iron's hot. Oklahoma will be a little bit down next year, no matter what anyone thinks. They still will not have the talent. CeeDee Lamb will be gone. They don't have the same players behind it. Even when you said last year where they lost so much, well, they still have the players behind it. Rodney Anderson will be gone. He's already gone. Sermon will be gone. These guys are just, there's so much leaving that program this year that over the last few years, when you start thinking about it, a lot of these programs start struggling a little bit. Even you see Georgia struggling right now. Why is that? Because they have just lost so much, And you can say, well, it's only one game, but they have not looked the same team. And when Lincoln Riley becomes that team that is ranked around 10 to 15, and it's just the iron won't be quite as hot again. And if you don't have that quarterback who is in the Heisman, which I don't think he will next year unless he just pulls some grad transfer out of his butt. And I don't think Spencer Rattler has the ability year one to be a Heisman candidate. I could be wrong.
I actually would disagree. I'll put my stamp on Rattler right now as being
he has not
incredible.
looked good in anything he's done. So, I'm going to you haven't watched him. He looks overwhelmed in like the little bit he played.
What did you watch the spring game?
He's played this year.
Oh, I haven't even seen him playing, but maybe you're more educated. But he's like Kyler Murray. He's incredible.
He's
I mean,
not
the
Kyler
throws
Murray.
he makes.
Let's put it this way: with a guy like that, you know what they do? They get compared to these great players. He's going to be a very good player. He's not Kyler Murray.
He's uber talented. He's taller than Kyler Murray. He's the number one recruit in the nation. He's 6'1". His confidence, he oozes with confidence. He is a better thrower than Kyler was in college. He actually is. And Spencer Rattler isn't just anybody. He is the number one 5-star quarterback. So it's not like I'm making some grandiose proclamation.
I know there's been a lot of those number one 5-star quarterbacks that don't end up being the number one guy.
Yeah, that hasn't worked out, like Rhett Bomar or whoever you want to talk about.
Let's put it this way: is that something that says a lot to me is because with these quarterbacks, right? They're taking the redshirt path with him, which to me says a lot. Because with Tua, the reason why Alabama never redshirted him, obviously there was the national championship game. We could get beyond that, right? The reason why Nick Saban and those coaches never redshirted him was because they knew even if he was behind Jalen Hurts for the whole year, he was never going to be there more than 3 years. So it made no sense not to put him as the backup. Rattler's not even the backup right now. He got beat out for the backup job. Tells me a lot.
Who got beat out?
Rattler got beat out for the backup job.
By who?
By this guy Morris Style or whatever the heck his name is. He's not the backup quarterback at Oklahoma.
No, Rattler is playing.
But he's not the backup. He's a third-string guy.
Okay. Well, they might just be trying to motivate him. A little Spencer Rattler propaganda on Rover Sports.
I'll tell you this right now. If they wanted to keep him happy, we're going to get back to Jerry Jones and all that here in a second. If you want to keep a guy like that happy, you play him at every chance you can, because what happens is in this day and age, everyone transfers that quick. So obviously there's something there that they have not 100% fallen in love with. I don't think this comes back to the old school motivation. I think that they're continuing.
I mean, Rattler is very confident, borderline cocky. So if you watch that QB1 show, so maybe Rattler. But I don't know. I believe in the tape. I believe in Rattler. I do. I believe he's going to be very, very special.
He just isn't their backup quarterback.
Yeah, I believe he's going to be. I believe he's going to be special. And going back. You want to go back to Jerry Jones, and go back to Jerry Jones.
No, what I'm saying is we can talk about Spencer Rattler all day. We can look at Tate Martell and just we can talk about that. But that's either here or there.
Right. Well, Spencer Rattler's taller. He's taller than Martell. He's more mobile. He's an elite thrower.
Quarterback in the nation too. But
that was at Bishop Gorman. That wasn't in Phoenix, Arizona. That was at Mr. Bishop Gorman. You're seeing DTR from Bishop Gorman.
What I'm saying is not every number one quarterback in the nation turns out to be the same. Jalen Hurts wasn't anything. Sam Ehlinger, these guys, some of these guys are not, number one guys.
No, you're absolutely right. You're 1,000,000%. You're absolutely right.
Okay.
So, yeah, we'll get back to normalcy.
Okay, let's get back to normalcy here. It's but yeah, I mean, it's what it looks like with Jerry Jones is that he just doesn't want to make that move right now. He feels like if you make that move, it's going to be too rushed, and just my opinion, this last thing I'll say, Jerry Jones is a very smart man. He might make every wrong decision at the time, but everything is well thought out with him. He's a great businessman. He basically is the reason what the NFL is today with a lot of the marketing and the TV and stuff like that. Everyone gives him basically the whole credit for it, So everything with him is well thought out. And that's kind of the reason why he kind of has basically said he's firing Garrett in the offseason without saying it. Like, we're going to reevaluate in the offseason. Nothing to be done during the season. He won't commit to anything with him, But he's basically committed to the fact that they're not going to fire him during the season, And he also says these things like, it's not just on Garrett, it's on everybody. So it doesn't seem like he's 100% happy with Richard right now. It doesn't seem like he's 100% happy with Kellen Moore, where it's like, I probably have to make this guy my guy, one way or another.
Are there so I completely understand everything that you've laid out. It's a very interesting situation, but if the Cowboys get 10 years of Lincoln Riley, I believe that they will adapt. I believe that it will put fear in the NFC East and Jerry Jones once again. And now it's all making sense with Jerry Jones sticking with Garrett. You know what I mean? Like all these nonchalant quotes. The media is going to hammer him. It kind of even gives me more peace and respect for Jones now that you've laid out that now that you found that out.
Yeah, it's in the newspapers in Dallas. That's what everyone thinks is going to happen. I mean, I'm saying this, and as we're speaking, I mean, Jason Garrett could be fired, as I say. I mean, I'm not guaranteeing it, but that's kind of the reason I see it. Or if somehow the Cowboys become out of it completely, then I could see him making that move, but makes the move to the point where they're never going to be in the playoffs, and it's kind of a it's not that threatening of a move. Where I don't think I see the Cowboys getting to that point this year, but the move to fire Garrett always has to be at a point of non-threatening towards the next hire. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I want to move. I want to, if you want to, I want to just connect the finishing dots of the story because I'm loving, discussing this whole complex situation. Let's just briefly talk about Oklahoma. How much fun would that be? I mean, that job, Urban Meyer eventually comes back into the fold. Like, that would be a fun coaching search, wouldn't it, Oklahoma?
I think it'd be a fun coaching search, but what I think you're going to realize with Oklahoma is that they really got big-time donors to really donate to keep Lincoln Riley's salary to where it has needed to be. Oklahoma has never been this job where Bob Stoops was never one of these guys who's getting paid at the top of, college football. Great coach for a long time. He was never the highest earning guy. He was never in the top 5 or 10. Oklahoma, to me, is a very odd job where up until the day T. Boone Pickens died, I mean, Oklahoma State, if they could have ever attracted the people, which they really just never were, would have been more than willing to pay this coach $8 to $10 million. They just never could get that, coach because, for whatever reason, it's like the sister school in Oklahoma. It would be a very, very, very interesting job to me because I don't think that they're, that fan base is not the fan base, the alumni base is going to pay more than $5 to $6 million for a coach, and that won't get Urban Meyer. I mean,
I'm trying to think that, but it opens up the door for definitely good coaches at Power Fives.
Without a doubt.
We did talk about PJ Fleck, but I think a Gus Malzahn could really be intriguing. Now, Greenwich is a defensive coach. Dave Aranda is defense, so I'm not sure. I think Aranda is awesome. But I think that they probably would go with an offensive coach. Like a Malzahn, maybe.
The only thing is you brought up the name Greenwich, okay? Which, I know he's been there for 1 year. But I think it would also depend on how successful this team is this year, if that makes sense, If the team makes the playoff and then somehow, some way, goes to a championship game and, if they win, they win. Then if they win, I can guarantee you Lincoln Riley you'll never see him coach another game in college football for a long time. But if you get to the college football playoff, that defense looks good. Oklahoma will take that cheaper option and keep it in place. I mean,
Yeah, and Greenwich is a guy that the defense really likes.
and maybe you go out and get a Joe Brady as your actual offense coordinator, unless LSU is going to make him the OC.
Ah,
I mean, I don't know, because remember for all the credit that Joe Brady's getting, what is his title at LSU? Passing
Co-OC.
game coordinator. He is passing game coordinator. That is his title if you look on their website. All right. So he is not an offensive coordinator. He's not being paid like that either. Maybe, you go a little bit cheaper on the head coach and you blow it out the water to get someone like that, and you keep that great Oklahoma passing game where you point out you do have a Spencer Rattler or something like that, and you really just want to keep that side of it going while you do have a defensive guy who can recruit his ass off with anybody in the nation in Greenwich. I don't know.
The tough part is for Oklahoma, like, you do have Greenwich. What they really needed to, well, I guess with Stoops, when he had young Lincoln Riley, the grooming process was taking place, and Lincoln Riley's too young, so they never could have prepared for Lincoln Riley to already be having an understudy. I mean, you're right. Like, imagine if they bring back like an older but a very good head coach, like an Urban, or even as crazy as it sounds, like Stoops wanted to come back for like 3 years, and you have Joe Brady underneath him, and then you can have like another grooming process.
Well, the thing about Lincoln Riley is if you go back and revisit time, all the rumor in the world, you'll have to go back and revisit this time. When it comes out after Bob Stoops retired months later, was that there was a prominent school that was willing to bring in Lincoln Riley and name him the head coach in waiting for the next year. There was a prominent school that's unnamed. The reason why Stoops retired, from a lot of the reports, was it was a forced retirement, and that basically Oklahoma decided that they wanted Riley instead of Bob Stoops. That's basically that's why retired Bob Stoops, because there was some rumor that basically Lincoln Riley was going to leave right then and there, and they needed to do whatever they could to keep him.
I give Stoops. Stoops could have been pissed. He couldn't have handled it with any more class. I mean, he was still at Oklahoma.
And they paid him a lot of money. I think he was, and also the thing about Stoops was, I think he was already on his way out.
Because he never won. He never won a championship again after 2001. I mean, he's always been a really good coach, but he never was elite, like the elite of the elite. So the great news is, and now connecting all these dots, what's going to be great is that if Lincoln Riley wins the championship, is that now the New York Giants, now our team and a lot of other teams are going to have now the whole Dallas, all these young teachers like Richard and Kellen Moore, they're all going to be scattered to the public now, which is going to be, I can't wait now. That's going to create a domino effect again, which is going to be fantastic for football.
And you know what? If I'm Kellen Moore, and Lincoln Riley doesn't fire you and wants to keep you, there is no way in heck I'm leaving that building for at least a year. And you learn everything you can from Lincoln Riley, and then I bet you, being seasoned by a guy like that, he'll be the highest quarterback, not the highest quarterback, highest head coaching name in 2021.
And Richard. But if I'm the Giants, I just hire Kellen Moore right now.
I wouldn't.
I'm hiring Kellen Moore immediately. I mean, I can't help it.
I wouldn't.
Give me Kellen Moore right now. Period.
Sunday, I think he needs some time. He needs a little more seasoning. He's going to be very good.
Yeah.
He needs a little more seasoning.
Let's switch gears here. Let's have a passionate discussion here. It's the Rover and Dave podcast. We broke down every Lincoln Riley angle. Crazy name drop, and it's absolutely wild. I'm going to surprise you with breaking news, but I want to talk about Kyle Allen and Cam Newton. Let's have that debate right now. I took the floor first last time. Carolina Panthers new owner and Dave Tepper. What do you think Carolina is going to do, and what would you do? What would you do? What is Carolina going to do?
Okay, so basically, I would have to believe at this point, now they've gone 4-0, this is going to be the toughest decision, in Carolina Panthers history. And there's a lot of dynamics that go into this. Kyle Allen, 5-0. Cam Newton, you basically the face of your franchise, the best player in your franchise's history, right? Kyle Allen has not thrown an interception, but has turned the ball over like 6-7 times on the fumbles. Cam Newton looked awful the first 2 weeks, but then you can backtrack and say, well, Cam Newton was hurt, and really this is just not the guy. Now you're saying that Cam Newton is healthy compared to he played the first 2 weeks on a pretty badly injured foot. He hurt it against the Patriots in the preseason, and, it's hard to judge him if you want to play devil's advocate on that one, I think that they'll stay with Kyle Allen, in the short term. I think that they're just waiting for him to mess it up in certain senses. It goes back to my Mark Bulger, Kurt Warner comparison earlier. Bulger came in, was great. Went 8-0, Kurt Warner lost a job. I think Kyle Allen is the guy. He might get you to the playoffs. It's a very tough division. I see nothing when I look at Kyle Allen as far as a dynamic cornerback. I see him as the total game manager. I think a lot of Kyle Allen's success has to be attributed to the MVP level play of Christian McCaffrey, where he has made it so easy. And, the offense coordinator, they've been protecting him. And at the same time, while protecting him, you're just using your best player more, which is sometimes what you need to do when you have a Cam Newton, and you just got to realize you got to give this guy the ball more. And so part of it, I think the offensive efficiency has been the fact that no one trusts Kyle Allen that much with the Carolina Panthers. And, everything's kind of a dink or dunk. He'll throw it down the field every once in a while. McCaffrey goes crazy. And if it's not McCaffrey, you've got Curtis Samuel, running on these end arounds and different things. So it's an interesting dynamic, but the brand of football that they're playing right now will not, and I'm telling you, will not be good enough. If it comes playoff time, they're going to need to put up some more offense. So that's kind of like, kind of where Cam Newton comes in this. That Cam Newton, when the big games come around, he makes plays. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL for years. And it's not aesthetically pleasing with him. I get that, but he throws for the yards. He runs for the yards. If he's healthy, if it was me, if he's healthy, I would have to at least, what week is it? Week 8 coming up, but it'll be their 7th game. If he is healthy, if it was me, I would have to play him the first game, because if not, you might get to a point where it's too late in the season and you just get to that point where you're stuck with Kyle Allen. And as good of a team as this is, which I think it's a really good team with McCaffrey, the defense looks great. Gerald McCoy looks like possibly the best offseason signing there is, because if you look at it in this sense, dollar for dollar, everything, impact, Gerald McCoy is far and beyond the best signing this offseason in all of football. You're in the catch-22. You're paying one guy like $25 million. I think they're going to stay with Kyle Allen. If it was me, I would have to say start Cam one game, and then if not, go back to Kyle Allen. And the other thing I'll preface it with is that Kyle Allen has only done it against the very weak part of the schedule. The team that they beat, the Texans fumbled the ball 4 to 5 times. They turned it over 4 to 5 times last week. The Bucks turned it over 7 times. So these games have kind of been given to him. Minshew the week before turned it over 4 times. These games have been given to him on silver platters, and he hasn't messed it up, which is great for Kyle Allen. And in some ways, some of these games should have been more of a blowout, and that's what concerns me about Kyle Allen. But he hasn't messed it up. The team is playing hard, and there's so much to be said for it at the same time. You take the floor.
Yeah. I think that Kyle Allen, first off, like, there's this whole notion out there that he is managing the game and that the offense,
he's throwing the most behind the ball.
Well, that the offense needs to be that the offense needs to get more complicated. Like if Kyle Allen in year 3 opening up the playbook, and I actually disagree. Like, unless defense has shut down this playbook, which they haven't been able to do, the playbook should continue to be simple. And if Kyle Allen can play like this for the next 10 years or however long he ever plays football, this is the way that football should be played at the quarterback position with this specific guy, Kyle Allen. The thing I like about Allen is that he's decently athletic. He can get out of a pocket. His accuracy is all right. His arm strength is definitely capable. His height is 6'3". He's actually a very good leader. Very competitive guy, and he understands the ebbs and flows of a game at a really high level. Here's the thing about Cam Newton. Cam Newton, and this is my personal opinion, I don't think we'll ever see Cam Newton thrive in the NFL again. Especially in 2 or 3 years, we'll never see him thrive. So if you're the Carolina Panthers, you're not going to be drafting a stud quarterback like a rookie quarterback that I think is going to contend really with Kyle Allen. You could ride out this Kyle Allen train, I believe, for the rest of the year. I don't see any harm in trading Cam Newton. I don't think Cam Newton has any value anymore. You saw the first 2 weeks, and you could say he's hurt, but he's been hurt for a long time. When's the last we've seen Cam Newton dominate? We'd have to go back maybe 2 or 3 years to the last time we saw Cam ball out. And Cam Newton is a strong personality. I'm not going to go ahead and call him selfish, but he definitely has flash, the post-game press attire. Some teammates might think he's phony, or some teammates might love the rah-rah attitude. But Kyle Allen has that mellow feel to him. The team definitely gravitates towards the guy right now as opposed to Cam Newton. Cam Newton is nothing but a distraction. If I were the Panthers, I would absolutely trade Cam Newton, 1,000,000% trade him, because I don't think he's going to be any good this year or anytime. And plus, if you keep Cam Newton around and you do not trade him, it's very dangerous for the team morale. It's a potential. It's hard enough for Kyle Allen to play quarterback at this level. He's not a stud quarterback, but he's good. And it's not. And here's the thing, Dave. It's hard enough to play quarterback in the NFL, preparing for these amazing defenses like the 49ers and the Saints that he's going to be playing. But then you have the whole Cam Newton standing on the sidelines, that whole media storm. So I would get rid of the problem altogether.
Tell me one team that's trading for Cam Newton right now after what you said, because that's, unless you're saying release him, who is trading for this guy? It's a out there take.
You don't think Tennessee would give up a 6-rounder for him?
There's no team in the NFL that's trading for Cam Newton right now. Because Tennessee, you want to know why you don't trade for Cam Newton? Because at this point you're trying to tank and get a quarterback. I mean, there's
but
no
Cam
way.
Newton somebody might believe that he could play for 3 or 4 more years.
Okay, but who's trading for him in the season right now?
Why wouldn't teams trade for him? Just say that argument.
He's at the end of the year, he's a free agent. He's what's it called? You have to get a whole new playbook. Tell me the team that, because also you have to be in contention to trade for him.
How about a 7th rounder? Fine. Then just release him.
Okay, then say that. Yeah, so I'm saying, tell me the team that's going to trade for him. But
Cam Newton, yes, he's gotten to a Super Bowl. He's played for 7 years in the league, but he is hurt and he's not mobile anymore. And Kyle Allen is just a more accurate passer at this stage because Cam hasn't been healthy, and Cam Newton, he just hasn't been healthy and he hasn't been accurate for a couple of years. And if he can't run around with all the shoulder surgeries, he's a weakened man.
I'll agree with that. I'm just asking who is trading for him.
I said Tennessee. That's possible. Tennessee's desperate to make a move. So if you give Cam Newton to Tennessee for a 7th rounder, I think that they accept it.
I mean,
let's think of another team. Maybe Tampa Bay, right? If Jameis Winston continues to suck. I mean, Cam Newton, if you're the Tennessee Titans, if I'm the Titans owner and it's a 7th round pick that could be used on a punter, I would let Cam Newton run the offense when he gets back healthy because he's a big guy. And who knows, maybe you catch a miracle, but Mariota's not a good quarterback. So there's a couple of spots. Maybe Zach Taylor, for some reason, would want to replace Andy Dalton, who's been terrible. You know what I mean? So.
No, I honestly, I don't see any last place teams trading for a guy and then giving up and starting to win some games out of nowhere with Cam Newton.
And that is the point, Dave. That's why Cam Newton doesn't have a future in this league. Nobody wants to pair their wagons with Cam Newton because he's hurt all the time. You're making my argument for me that it should be Kyle Allen.
You're not listening to what I'm saying. Why would any team that's going to get a pick, okay? A top 10 pick, want to have to trade for a guy, lose the pick, and then you have to pay the guy, so it goes beyond the rookie contract theory again. So you're going to have to pay the guy if he plays well again. And there's also no guarantee that if he were to be a boost to your team, guess what? There is no guarantee if you trade for a guy in season. It's not like you can just franchise tag him the same way. You can't do it.
I would fine. If you can't trade him, then just simply you could talk to Cam Newton and say you're not going to be the starter. It's embarrassing for Cam Newton, a guy with pride, to be the backup quarterback. Okay, it's embarrassing and distracting at the same time. If I were Cam Newton, it's embarrassing. This guy is one of the greatest college players ever. He's had a really good career in the NFL. Certainly, you could even argue he's done more than Andrew Luck has in his NFL career. He's a big-time talent.
He has all these rookie records that are trying to be broken are basically Cam Newton's records.
And I like Cam Newton, and I'd take him every day of the week over like a Matt Ryan. He's a clutch quarterback. He gets it done. He does good things in the community. Like Cam Newton, yes, he's a good quarterback, but at the same time, he's a shell of his former self. He's gotten hurt too much. Kyle Allen's rolling. This is a beautiful thing, okay? And maybe Kyle Allen could do this for 3 or 4 more years, so you don't mess it up. That's my point. I'm strong in this. Don't mess it up.
Yeah, no, I mean,
so would you put Cam Newton in against the 49ers, or are you sticking with Kyle and Cam in relief?
I would love for Kyle Allen. I think you have to stick with Kyle Allen because here's my point with this one, all right?
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Allen struggled mightily against the Texans. I mean, they won that game because the Texans turned the ball over 100 times. I don't know that where I'm saying with Kyle Allen is I don't know that he has done this to the point where, you could get a read one way or another because against the one good team that he played, he wasn't really doing anything. He fumbled the ball 3 times, he was insecure with the ball. I mean, I think he's rushed like 7 times for 6 yards.
I think that was his second start. That was his second start, but he still got the team in the end zone.
It's hard to tell with him. He got the team. Well, the score was 16-10, so it wasn't like it was. When you're getting the amount of turnovers that they're getting, even last week with the 7 turnovers, that's what it should. 37 points. Yeah, it was produced. That was great, but still, it comes with the 7 turnovers. Last week, there are key numbers for me with Kyle Allen that are alarming. That just, some of the things you can't get around with him.
Yeah, but here's the thing. That Bucs defense was shutting down McCaffrey in the running game. So what does Kyle Allen do? He transports the ball to McCaffrey. I mean, the offense with Kyle, I think Kyle Allen's doing an excellent job. He's winning.
Yeah, I'm just saying 3 for 15 on 3rd down to me is alarming. There are certain things that point to that say, is this just a fad or is this real? And
I don't think you're going to lose any sleep at night. You're not going to lose any sleep at night over Cam Newton. Even if Kyle Allen flames out this year, give Kyle Allen the try because guess what? Cam Newton, when they were 0-2 and lost to Tampa Bay, Ron Rivera was on the verge of getting fired. Kyle Allen has never lost in the NFL. And in fact, there's some weeks he actually plays really well. And he still had a big drive last week against Tampa Bay. And with this defense and this team around you, a quarterback's job is to win, to take care of the ball, which Kyle Allen doesn't throw picks. He's 5-0 as a quarterback. I think the guy is actually good. I really do. I like what I see a lot from him. And then you talk about McCaffrey and Curtis Samuel on the reverses. Your job as a quarterback is to get your team. It's to pretty much like drive the bus. You know, you don't need to be a hero like a Mahomes. There's not too many Mahomes and Deshaun Watsons out there in football.
Well, basically what I'm saying is, well, I can't tell with Kyle Allen, and he has not proven this, and there's no argument that you could give me to actually prove it. When the chips are down and you need a quarterback to make a game-winning drive, can he do it? And he has not yet, and he hasn't been asked to yet. But at the same time, you can point to a lot of different factors in these games, and basically, except for one game in Arizona, I can't show you a game that really Kyle Allen has stepped up and you said really played well, or is it just he has completely managed not to screw the thing up? And that's kind of where it's a little bit scary in that sense of I've never seen a quarterback that has gone 5-0 the way he has, and you're just like, is this guy even necessarily capable, or is it just the fact that everything else around it has gone perfect in these times?
Each game is different. If the defense is rolling, you as an OC are not going to put the guy in harm's way anyway.
I mean, the what's it called game points out to me as a game where the Texans game really was an alarming game for me in the sense of Carolina had every chance to put that game away, and this guy was just turning the ball over like crazy. You know,
he was also going against J.J. Watt. You know, that's one of the best players to play defensive end.
85 Bears.
I still think that Texans defensive line on the road in that environment, Houston, Texas, gets really loud. Merciless Watt, you know. Who's putting up big points? And by the way, look at these Texans. The Texans just beat the Chiefs. They might be good.
Yeah.
They might be good.
No, but remember, the Texans shot themselves in the foot that game. That's what I'm saying. Remember, the Texans turned the ball over like crazy. And the only reason why the Panthers didn't blow that game out was because what? Because Kyle Allen was turning the ball over with him.
The fumbling.
Like they were going like bang for bang with turnovers.
Time will tell, though, but we agree. Let's let Kyle start.
Time will tell.
And
I would agree with Kyle starting. I'm not saying, but with you, I think the leash is a lot longer. With me, if he looks like he's struggling, you gotta go back to Cam and at least see kind of where I am with Cam Newton is. You've got to at least see, is this guy healthy and is he back to the old Cam? And if he's not, you pull the plug quick. And you just got to roll Kyle Allen, so be it.
Well, you got to also, but as an owner, you have to see how Cam vibes with these players compared to Kyle. If they're tired of Cam's, you know, him dressing crazy at the press conferences.
All I know is as an owner, I don't think they're as sold on this Kyle Allen as you are.
All right, well, let's look at the games coming up. You know what would be the death nail actually for Cam Newton is if they start him at the 49ers.
No, if I'm the Panthers, I think there is no better time to start Kyle. It's almost like you've gone with him this long. You've got to see if he goes in and beats the 49ers, you won't hear me question it. It's just like one of those like catch-22s where I'm playing both sides of the fence here because it is truly one of these unique situations that I don't think that the NFL has truly seen in a long time.
Yes.
Undrafted free agent compared to your franchise quarterback. So there's not even like a rookie quarterback that had some expectation coming in, you know?
In a perfect world, you want to know the most perfect world scenario for the Carolina Panthers?
What's that?
Here's the perfect world scenario. And you also you have to kind of see, you know, against the 49ers, he might have a really bad game, but also maybe Jimmy Garoppolo has a bad game. So it's like a Houston Texans game. So there's a lot that can happen. Then the Panthers play at home against a good Tennessee defense. They then go to Lambeau Field. So in a perfect world, Cam Newton would, if you're Carolina and everything was perfect, he would continue to rehab and not be with the team, because then it's Kyle Allen's team. So then you see if Kyle Allen can handle everything without the distraction of Cam being right there on the sideline. That would be a perfect world scenario.
If Kyle Allen can't deal with Cam Newton being on the sideline, then Kyle Allen should never play quarterback in the NFL. How about that? I think Kyle Allen. I don't think Cam Newton being there. I think this distraction stuff, that's like more media talk. If he can't handle a teammate being on the sideline,
but
I mean,
we got to see how Cam behaves in that scenario.
Cam has been fine. Cam has been fine.
No, he has been fine, but come on. Cam has a ton of pride. You're talking about a guy with a ton of pride and a ton of success, and this is an undrafted kid. I mean, when you look at Cam Newton's college career, when you look at Cam Newton compared to Kyle Allen, even before this year, Kyle Allen was kind of just a good high school player. So it's going to be tough for Cam Newton. It really will be.
Oh, it's going to be. The reason why I don't think you're going to get this guy acting like a baby, because these guys care about their money. Cam Newton's making so much money that if you start acting like a baby, you start acting like an idiot, you potentially don't get activated. And right now, Cam Newton's making a little bit less money each week because he's not being activated each week because of the injury. These guys want to be active. They want to at least be the backup quarterback, so that way they get their full paycheck. I don't think that that's why a lot of times in this NFL, when guys get benched, everyone's like, oh, this guy handled it so professionally, this, that, the other thing. It's because at the end of the day, these guys care about their money. These guys know how to handle it professionally. These guys know that unless you're Antonio Brown, who just acts like a complete idiot all the time, you don't get paid the same amount that you're supposed to get paid if you're not active for the game. That's the way the NFL works. It just is what it is,
All right, we got 15 more minutes left on the podcast. Big breaking news. Marcus Peters traded to the Baltimore Ravens.
Woo!
I'll tell you the details of the trade. I think that this is a great move for the Rams because you got to shake up the culture. You got to shake things up.
What's the detail of the trade? So let's get to that first.
Yeah.
What's
undisclosed pick and this linebacker named Kenny Young. Do you know who Kenny Young is? He's on the Ravens.
I've heard the name. I can't tell you that. I know a ton about him.
Wait. So fifth rounder. Wait, the Rams also a 5th round pick. I think they're getting 2 picks in this damn trade.
Okay, so but basically this looks like to me, I'm just gonna call like.
Shout out to Rob Parker. He broke the news. Rob Parker hanging out with the Brew Crew over there at Fox Sports.
Okay, so great job, Rob. I'm breaking the story. Let's put it this way. The Rams, I told you last week they were in major trouble after the loss to Seattle. The Rams are done this year. They know they're done. Gurley's going to be a shell of himself. This offensive line is totally depleted. So basically, McVay is already you're trading Peters. Talib's out. You know you're going to have no secondary at this point. Maybe they're playing for next year at this point already. I don't care what anyone says.
Well, that Goff contract, do you think they'll try to trade him too?
I'm not saying no one would take Goff. Who would want Jared Goff in that kind of contract?
He's the Super Bowl. Well, he made the Super Bowl. He made the Super Bowl.
Okay, yeah. Also, you're paying him about $40 million a year.
Yeah, I know. It's a horrible, horrible contract. It's a terrible contract. Yeah, Goff isn't playing that well. Les Snead, again, got pressured because it is the whole professional sports argument that we talked about earlier in the season. But Marcus Peters was a locker room problem. You still have Talib. They're not punting. Sean McVay never punts on a season. No way. And Marcus Peters, he's the same. Marcus Peters is the same guy who couldn't, graduate Washington. He's the same guy who wore out his welcome with the Kansas City Chiefs when pretty much it's almost impossible to wear out your welcome with the Kansas City Chiefs. And he threw that ball into the stands. I mean, this guy is known as an unstable personality around the NFL. And I think it's a locker room decision.
Yeah, no. You know Talib's out for the year when you said they still have Talib.
Oh, no.
This team is completely decimated. Talib's out for the year. They're trading Peters. I'm telling you, they're punting the season. Their best offensive lineman, whatever that guy.
Whitworth?
Whatever that guy. Not Whitworth. The other guy who just got hurt. Who's
Sullivan?
been the best offensive lineman is out for the year.
Sullivan?
You got to look the name up. It's not Sullivan. There's
Maybe
another guy who's great.
Rob
Their best guy.
Havenstein.
He's probably not the biggest name that you've ever heard, but he's been Pro Football Focus as their best offensive lineman. They're punting on the season. I don't care what they say. They're content to go 8-8, 7-9. They know that in the West right now, you're not going to win the West with the 5-1.
They're punting on the season, but their quarterback is terrible.
Yeah,
and they're paying all these guys.
So what do? You get rid of. You start trimming the fat.
Mm-hmm.
You start acquiring assets. Next year they're not that far away from being really good again. If that makes sense, they're not going to be terrible from here on out, but they're not making the playoffs.
But you also have you got Eric Weddle and Clay Matthews in the offseason. That's the opposite of punting for a season.
Yeah, but Clay Matthews is out until November, so don't tell me about Clay Matthews. He's hurt.
And these are veterans, though. I mean, now they're really changing course from what they've been doing.
Clay Matthews is out. Everybody's out with this team. This team is decimated with injury. Marcus Peters is an absolute locker room distraction. It's 100%, but the guy is very good at playing man-to-man football. If you ask him to do much other than that,
mm-hmm.
It's awful at best. I mean, he lost the game. I wouldn't say lost, but if you remember last year against the Saints, not the championship game, the first game, he lost the game for them, at least clinched it for the Saints, in the sense of that he had no idea what coverage they were actually in, that, Michael Thomas ran down the field for the uncontested touchdown because he thought they were in zone and that he was supposed to be in man.
Right.
Right. He's an upgrade for Baltimore. He's a guy you take in small doses. He's probably good for a team. He's kind of like a college basketball. I dealt with this as a coach at some points. Kids are good for 1 year, having them around your program for 1 year. And then by year two, all their flaws start coming out. Like, you really just can't stand the guy, You don't want him really around the program. But for 1 year, and now you're not talking even a full year with Marcus Peters. You're talking, 10 weeks, another 5.
Oh, is he a free agent, or they're going to look to move on from him?
I don't know what he is or isn't. But all I'm saying is,
it's a good move kind of for Baltimore, although he's a headache, because Lamar Jackson, they only have a very short window, this team.
I think it's a great move for Baltimore just because it's a short window theory, and even with Lamar Jackson, whatever, this team's built to win now. I don't think that they're really a contender, but you still got to give everything you have when you are in this situation. Maybe the Patriots get hurt a little bit, maybe you get a little luck. The Chiefs haven't looked as good. I'm not really that big of a believer in the Texans long term. Maybe
you know what?
The conference opens up. I don't
Guess
think
what?
it will, but it could.
This is a big win for anyone who doesn't like the Philadelphia Eagles, because this was a tailor-made Eagles move that needed to happen.
Oh, you're 100% right. I mean, with that guy, Sidney Jones or whatever the heck his name is, I mean, he should be banned from the NFL, but it hasn't happened yet.
Guess where Jones went to college?
Laurie should put a fraud dispute for his game check last week with his bank because he didn't show up and play.
No, he didn't. Adam Thielen undressed him live on public television.
I mean, him and Thielen and then Diggs. I mean, holy cow!
They made Kirk Cousins look like a freaking Joe Montana.
Joe Montana. They made this guy look like
techno-bold Brett Favre.
No, like one of those creative players that you put up all those stats to 99 in Madden. I mean,
hey, you know that Sidney Jones is from Washington too. Him and Markelle Fultz were roommates. I made that up, but the fact is they're both Philly and Washington are not really going together that well.
Hopefully Matthias Tybalt goes a little bit better, but
yes. Matthias
But
Feibel. Oh man, we did a great show today. It was a lot of fun, Dave. We'll wrap up the show with this. What an awful call. We were deprived of a Matt Stafford opportunity to come down, and that was the one thing I didn't want to see happen, was to see an old extra point by Mason Crosby end that game, especially with the upstart Lions. Now the Lions are 2-2-1. If the Lions won that game, they went from, I think, first in the division to actually last in the North last night. I mean, that was certainly a call that is going to haunt their season, probably.
I mean, the way I look at it, it was a call that I won't say that it decided their season. It took the opportunity away from them to win. I don't necessarily know that they would have gone down and scored, but we don't know at this point. Crosby would have hit the field goal within about 45 yards. Crosby hits it, and you're right. It takes away the opportunity for the Lions, which it hurts me. I think the worst call, I'm just going to be quite honest with you, the worst call was the one earlier in the fourth quarter where Rodgers gets sacked. And, I mean, the one with about a minute and 40 to go, it was a really, really bad call, but it was closer to the neck. The first one, with about 9 minutes to go where they sacked him, and it would have been fourth down where they were still up 9. I mean, what could the referee have been considerably looking at, I mean, it wasn't even –
and there could be a rigging job, and here's the point, too. Remember the Packers scored a touchdown, and the guy's knee was down. They didn't review it. I mean, I saw that later. I saw there was 13 guys on a field.
The one to Lazard?
Yeah, and I saw that there was 13 guys on the field for the Packers. Every call was ridiculously favored towards the Packers, and maybe it adds into a conspiracy theory. That's just how bad the refs were to the Lions, because it does make sense for the NFL to want Aaron Rodgers and the huge Packer fan base to play in the playoffs.
I'm not going to argue any conspiracy theories. What I'll say is with the one where his knee looked down, if you look at it, Lazard was bobbling the ball until he got into the end zone. In fairness to the review, they probably just said there's no way we're going to overturn this because, the ball was bobbling until he actually did establish the end zone, which would have been a non-factor because he scores probably the next play. But I agree. Everything seems to go that way. My feeling on the Chiefs game last year with the Patriots. It's every time the NFL has a chance to push through one of these bigger superstars, somehow it seems to happen. And you could say, well, what about the Saints last year and, Drew Brees, big superstar? My theory on that one, they wanted to push the LA market. They really wanted the Rams to be in the Super Bowl,
1,000%, because that's a struggling market. It's going to be $1 billion market, and people in LA have more money than people in New Orleans.
I mean, obviously the Saints have a bigger following right now, but you're right. It's it's the $1 billion market that's kind of untapped, and they were trying to, give it a nice little push.
And in college sports, in the tournament, I definitely think this happens in the NCAA tournament.
Well, you know where I definitely would agree with that, but I think that just goes to in basketball, better players get the benefit of the doubt sometimes.
Yeah, so Kansas
football,
City, though, was that too small of a market, you think, for this? I mean, even though the Chiefs fans are great, you think they wanted Brady and the national audience and all the Boston money going to, where was it, Atlanta?
I don't even think, I mean, and also you got to remember it's that, Brady's a brand, the TB12, obviously, it's a whole cult following, that personal foul, the hands to the face with about 7 minutes to go where it would have been a 3-and-out compared to then it becomes a touchdown. The Chiefs were winning. It turned the whole game there. And then, the ticky-tack D4 offsides that every Sunday I watch guys line up offsides on that end. And if it doesn't affect the play, it just isn't called, it feels like. I mean, you see that black line every Sunday with that ball or Saturday. And how many times you see a guy maybe with a hand maybe a little bit over, but it doesn't affect the play? And the refs are taught, if it doesn't affect the play, don't throw the flag. That's what they're taught. And it's never called except for that one time. I mean, come on. The play didn't even go to that side of the field. There was zero effect. And I 100% agree with your theory on The NFL conveniently puts who they want if there's a chance. Let's put it this way. I'm going to give you a bigger theory. Well, we'll wrap up in a second here. What about 2 years ago when Miles Jack returns that touchdown in the AFC Championship game? Oh, wait, we blew the field. We blew it dead on the field. The guy didn't get touched. He ran for a touchdown. That would have been the end of the Patriots when they played Atlanta that year. Scored the touchdown. Would have been the end of them. No, they just give the ball to Jacksonville 80 yards further back in the field and negate the touchdown. These are the things that you just look at, and you're 100% right. It's just time and time again, the NFL messes up in the biggest moments, and it never happens to be for the small guy. I would 1,000% back that one.
I think too, in the moment, the pass. I said this, and I was very consistent with it. That reviewing the pass interference would make the game really long. It would be such a judgment call. It would get really stupid. And just because the ref screwed up that one time in New Orleans with a terrible pass interference call, it doesn't mean that every single regular season game, because there are games that actually are officiated decently well. The majority are officiated, I think, all right. And that was just, I hated that decision at the time because that was an outlier. That was one of the worst calls ever. And most officiating crews would have called pass interference. So I think that
honestly,
move has really backfired, I think.
In live time, if you looked at it from the referee's angle, yeah, it might have been egregious, but, they could have messed it up, even though I do believe that they messed it up on purpose. But the way I've always believed reviews should happen in the NFL, it's kind of like in college where these reviews shouldn't come from the coaches. If the booth comes up and sees something that is completely wrong, like in college, they've made a legal line, ineligible receiver downfield reviewable. They've made a couple of these things more reviewable. Well, then maybe they should be able to do it in the NFL. You get a buzz down on a scoring play. Hey, this was egregious. We're going to look at it real quick, and you take it away from the, you take it off the coach's hands. And if it's that bad, you can fix it. You have all this technology, you can fix it, but don't expect it to be fixed all the time, though, at the same time.
Right.
You buzz it down, you say, hey, we got to take a look at this. This happened, and boom, you fix it. If not, you move on, you just play. Maybe this happens once every 20, 40 games where there's such a bad error in something that, I'm not talking about a holding call. And I'm not even talking about the hands to the face last night, because I'm telling you right now, those should not be fixed. Those are bad calls on the field, whatever. That's part of the game. But, that pass interference with the Saints last year, it should be able to be buzzed down and say, we need to fix this,
Right. Dave, thanks so much, man, for coming on the podcast. I got to get going. It's always fun chatting with you every single week. We do this twice a week, the Rover and Dave podcast. And on Friday, probably on Friday, we will review all the games in the NFL and in college, talk about some big storylines, some up-and-coming teams. I want to thank everybody who watched the show live and everybody that's going to consume the show of Rover Sports. And Dave, thank you again for stopping by.
Thank you.